Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of SEO Fight Club. I'm just popping out the YouTube chat so I can see any questions that show up. And I'd like to remind everyone to ask questions early because sometimes things run long and people have to leave, and then we run out of time for questions. So if you have anything urgent or important, be sure to ask it earlier rather than later, and that way we'll be sure to get to your questions. I'd like to remind people that we do have a web forum, and that's at seofightclub.org. So if you have questions or conversation ideas, show topics, you want to present an SEO experiment you did and what results you got, let us know. We're happy to bring on guests and see what you have to share because we like to learn things too. So feel free to reach out to us on that forum, seofightclub.org. Um, Also, be sure to check out SEO This Week. That is Clint Butler's YouTube show. And it's a pretty cool show. The production quality's gone up in recent weeks. And if you've been living under a rock, you haven't heard about it by now. But hopefully, most people on this channel are aware. Clint, what can people expect this week from your show?
Went over a lot about AI mode and the opportunities I see in it, especially for e-commerce.
Killer. So, yeah, if you want to keep up with the changes, Clint's trying to help you out. All you got to do is watch. Clint, how much does it cost to subscribe to your YouTube channel?
$1 million.
There you go, the low, low price. So please do subscribe and engage. It costs you nothing, and it literally helps us out a ton. So that's how you give back when Clint is giving back to the community. So all right, Madge, anything new in the world of press releases?
Yeah, sorry, just getting a call. Yeah, so the new website will hopefully be live and kicking in a couple of weeks. Our digital PR campaigns that we started 2 weeks ago now, 2 to 3 weeks. The clients that we've done them for so far have seen some amazing results from very good brand mentions. Because what we're doing is we're doing the PR, then combining it with the digital PR campaign, and then linking a PR campaign back to the digital PR. So whichever high authoritative sites that we end up getting our clients, we then throw in a silver or gold campaign to the digital PR package, which not only gets their brand mentioned a lot more, but also the main digital PR links that we managed to get tend to rank even higher for them. So the clients are very, very pleased with the results so far. And a few case studies will be shown very soon. So yeah, it's exciting times.
Awesome. And if you haven't heard of Madge's service, it's magicpr.com. It was used by Craig Campbell in an image SEO contest. It's used by Clint Butler. I've used it. Probably most of the YouTube SEOs you've seen out there have used Madge's service. So it's one of the ones I like to keep in my pocket. Lee, anything to announce?
No, not specifically. You know, just I got some slides for today for us to talk about when after we get done with all the little pre-talk here. So, got some cool things to stimulate some conversation today.
Yeah, the one thing that kind of got me grumbling today was the SEO or the Search Engine Roundtable article about John Mueller, where John was saying, I wouldn't group programmatic SEO with technical SEO. And then he goes on to say that technical SEO is making great online things crawlable and indexable and understandable. Well, if that's technical SEO, then what's SEO?
Mhm.
I mean, come on. You're just saying, well, technically it's SEO, so it's a technical SEO. What the hell? Technical SEO is the more technical parts of SEO in general. Uh,
Well,
yeah,
I think,
So I
we
can
we've
hear a
talked
rant
about.
coming on, Ted.
Oh,
I can
I
hear
yeah,
a rant
yeah.
coming on.
It's
Let me rant for you for a second. I hate it when people start breaking apart SEO and all these. Look, I understand. I agree. There's some people can get really deep and technical and really deep in different things. But if you're an SEO, you should understand the technical. You should understand the keywords. You should understand link building. You should understand the content. You should understand all these pieces. And I find that folks that that really love breaking SEO into parts, they're really just covering for the fact that they don't know something, and that drives me insane that it's a way for them to say, well, I don't know what it means, so I'm just going to say it's something else. No, it's all SEO. So rant
yeah,
over. Sorry.
I, I
yeah.
think we've talked about technical SEO several times on the show, and there's definitions that are different. What some people consider technical, other people consider no, it's just standard. That's not really technical. And so there are degrees of this, and where people draw the lines, is where the fights start, on this sort of stuff. So in John's eyes, it's one thing. In Ted's eyes, holy shit! Unless you're down in the server, you're not doing anything technical. So
Well, and you know, there needs to be a name for some things, and those SEOs that understand how a third party hosted ad, like a Google ad, could actually de-index a page in search. Like
mm,
there are reasons that can happen, and they're not intuitive by any means. And so solving those kinds of SEO problems, very, very technical. Like you are getting into the specifications of protocols and technologies and finding out their limits. And there's a whole aspect of SEO that is very sophisticated. Some of it even goes beyond anything I know. And there needs to be a name for it because not all SEOs are technical SEOs. And with the definition John put out there, if you get stuff crawled and indexed, that you're a technical SEO.
yeah,
Well, that feels good. It's awfully kind, but I think you've just complicated the space. And this is why I don't like it when Google gets to decide what SEO things mean. We shouldn't let Google do that because they just cause pain and confusion.
Who gets to decide though? Because we as SEOs can't agree on that shit either. So
Clearly, the
Well,
community can't decide.
yeah. I agree because I've heard and love Clint's take on this when he talks about link building. One of the key things out there is if you want to be a leader in the field, you got to come up with your own name for something that already exists. And Clint goes off on it's not link building, it's digital PR, it's this, it's that, it's all of these different things, which basically all mean the same damn thing, except to the person selling it to a client.
well, if everybody is doing technical SEO, then SEO itself needs a new definition.
I don't
That's,
know about that. I mean, if all SEOs, like Charles said that all SEOs should know some aspect of technical SEO. Some people are better at things on the super
Mhm.
deep technical side than others. Then you're still an SEO. Why does there have to be a new definition for it?
Yeah, there are
And I
medical
would suggest
specialties.
Just because your skill set is leaning more towards content optimization versus code optimization doesn't make you any less of an SEO. You just have your skill set is not equal on both those things. So I think it's
So Clint, that's perfect, dude. Because like that's kind of where I think we should as an industry be. If you're an SEO, there are certain things you need to understand. Now, you may, let's say Clint leans real heavily, let's just say on link building, and he can really get, he can come up with some really great link building tactics and how to boost up links and the right anchor text. He can get into a level that I may not know, but I should still understand link building. I still understand why it works and how it works. Just like, someone may, let's say Lee doesn't know about, I don't know,
Much.
server settings, but he should understand how a robots.txt works. He should understand the importance of it. He should understand how a sitemap XML works. He should understand these basic. He should understand it. He's just like, well, yeah, I don't know the intricacies or the differences between the different 500 errors. Let's just pretend.
Well,
So
the problem is eventually someone's going to encounter an issue. It's going to be something like, hey, I'm an online retailer. About 1 in 5 pages are randomly de-indexed. Search Console is calling them 500 errors, but whenever I visit the page, they work just fine. And I can see that Googlebot has seen them just fine too in the logs and got 200 okay. And then somebody's going to say, well, what you need is somebody who can figure out what is happening on that web application that would cause that. You need a blank kind of SEO to be able to do that.
Mhm.
And if everybody's a technical SEO, I can guarantee that not every SEO can solve that technical problem. And so,
and
how
I
do
would
you
agree.
ask for the help you need if you make everybody the technical SEO?
And I totally agree with that, Ted. I guess maybe where my trigger's coming from is I've interviewed so many people in the past years who so I would always give everybody a test, and I'd give them a page and I'd say, all right, here's the scenario. This page is, someone comes to you and says, this isn't ranking. Boom, here's the page. What's wrong with it? And honestly, there were like 40 different things, all kinds of things wrong with the page. But what I found the test did is it separated out the people that I figured out where their strengths and their weaknesses were right off the bat. And I'd have people come to me and say, I'm an SEO, I've been doing SEO for years, but then not know that the page had a robust no index on it. Or that, like very basic things were broken on the page. And it's like, in my mind, you're not an SEO then. If you can't spot a robust no index, that's a problem. And I've had people tell me, "Oh, I'm just not that technical." Well, you don't have to be technical to know that a link is broken or you've got a bad this or a bad that. I've had people come back to me and say things like, "Oh, these hreflangs don't look right, but I'm not 100% sure what the syntax is. I'd have to check it." To me, that was a beautiful answer. That is perfect. Your gut told you there was something wrong. You couldn't spot it, but okay, you got to do research. That's cool. So I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from. Is I've had so many people basically explain it as a way to explain gaps in their knowledge, which I have a problem with. So
Yeah, and people, I have this suspicion that people think it's a dig, like, oh, technical SEOs are like better SEOs because they're technical. No, it doesn't mean they rank things any better. It means they can solve a more complex kind of problem.
I've had it just
So
the opposite. Oh, Clint, he's just a technical SEO. It's
Yeah.
like I've had it used as
I
a
don't,
dig
I don't
against
find
me
those
many
guys
times.
as, yeah, they can solve more complex problems. They can solve a different kind of problem.
A different set of problems.
Yeah, it's not more. I mean, it could be writing
yeah,
content can be complex, you know?
Could be a simple
yeah,
problem. It's technical.
Yeah,
but
link building can be complex. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
from
It's
the
not
code,
everyone
from the
is
protocols,
technically
from the
a,
server configurations.
from a marketing perspective, all of us don't want to run around and go, we're technical SEOs, woo," and knowing that only one of us can actually solve deep technical problems
But see
because
that
of our coding abilities. But we all can do technical SEO.
that's the thing though. This industry, SEO, is multidisciplinary. There are so many things in so many different areas you have to go, and each one of those rabbit holes can go, way deep. You're talking about, like server configuration. Man, I can turn the damn thing on and off type thing, but then there are people like Ted who can get in there. And then there are people that Ted knows that he would consider way more technical than him. So, you've got these scales. There are people who are really fabulous with link building or on page or image optimization or schema or, all of these sort of things. So, you have to know a little bit about a lot of this to do, your job well, unless you become just a specialist and all I do is content. All the rest of that crap, let other people handle.
Which you'll find is typically what a lot of people do once they grow to a certain point. Because as Ted said, skills everything, right? So there's only so much like I'm sure Charles, he knows a lot about the back ends of foxnews.com, but Charles ain't going to fix that shit. He's going to ask 50 other people and the board members for approval and all that other stuff. So he knows and understands technical SEO, but he's not going to do it. So
And
does
there's
make him
levels.
less of a technical SEO. I think he probably would be a great technical SEO because he's been exposed to some of these stupid ass large sites that are just, has got opportunities to see stuff that a local SEO, a guy who focuses on local business, wouldn't necessarily see.
But we already had a word for that. It was enterprise. All right, rant over. I guess we'll let Charles take it away. Is Charles up first?
No, Lee's got to go because I stole his time last week.
You didn't steal my
Okay.
time, dude. You didn't steal my time.
I yield time to the gentleman from Oklahoma.
Oh.
You know what? As though it was your time to yield, sir.
See, that's a power move right there. That's what you do.
That was totally a power move. Wow. I don't know what's happening here. Sharing's not turned on. See, there's another power move. I see what's happening here.
You didn't say please.
Please,
there you
sir.
go. It's on.
All right, let's do this. Let's do this. All right. Come on. Let me hide this. Like that. Okay. So about a week ago, there's the Marketing AI Institute is a group that's been together for multiple years. They were doing AI type research in marketing before like ChatGPT and Claude and all these things, exploded out. So it's been very, very good for them. And they put out every year, they interview sort of their membership and compile a bunch of data and put out the State of Marketing AI report. So what I did is I pulled some snippets from the report that I thought were kind of interesting to talk about. And so we just brought them, here today. Their report is way, way too long to cover. It'd take multiple Fight Club episodes, but so here's the thing. This is like the first couple of slides are just who all is represented in this. So you guys can stare at this a little bit. But I will say there is a bias in the data because people that are at the Marketing AI Institute are by and large marketers. So you can see here the variety of different roles that people had that responded to the survey. They had over 1,800 respondents, and they will tell you with each question, like you can see, down here, the 1,882 people answered this "What's your role?" question. 78% are not in the C-suite. So you've got a nice mix of, C-suite and non-C-suite people in this particular thing. So we'll move on a little bit. They ask people, what areas are you involved? So you can kind of see what kind of marketers they are. The stuff doesn't add up to 100% because in your area of marketing, you can be responsible for more than one thing. So the number one thing there was content marketing, which is, kind of what AI is really, really good at. I'll just take a minute and sit back and see if you guys have, any observations on this that are anything that stands out to you.
I would assume that e-commerce is being viewed as a separate channel, so it'd be things like Merchant Center, even though like e-commerce sites would do a lot of all of these. So
Yeah.
there's an assumption there that it's a separate from the other things channel.
I don't know that it is, because if I did content for e-commerce, I would check content marketing and e-commerce, because again, these respondents doesn't add up to 100%. You can have multiple people. So I think what it says to me more is that 21% of the people who took this survey in marketing have something to do with e-commerce.
Then where would paid marketing be on this?
Maybe advertising up here.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. I was thinking that is more along the lines of media buys.
Yeah, I mean their classifications are a little bit different, but the biggest ones are kind of what we do here. Although only 51%, 51% said they were involved in SEO, which I thought was interesting, given that this is primarily a marketing or digital marketing thing. I would have thought it would have been much more in the content, much less on the SEO side of things. But there are some people that do have that in here.
I think
kind of.
I was going to say, I think these marketing people think of SEO as something different than what they're doing, even when they are doing this. They're thinking technical SEO probably, but they're saying, no, I don't do SEO. I just write articles with links to the product or that sort of thing, or post or social media stuff like that.
We post high quality content.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, how many of that 79% content marketing are really just SEOs who don't want to call themselves SEOs?
Yeah, kind of what these numbers say to me is they've cornered the SMX audience.
Maybe, that could very well be. But it's just giving it, before we look at the responses to the survey questions, we want to see a little bit about, who the people are, so we can kind of understand how they match up with us and how they don't match up with us. Company revenue was another thing, and this was important for some of the breakouts because some of the answers did depend on the size of the company. So looking at this, it's about half the companies have 10 million or more in revenue. Or when I showed this to Charles, he goes, half the people have less than 10 million in revenue. So Charles,
wait, this doesn't pass Benford's.
Well, as I said, this is a skewed audience. So
yeah.
So, you kind of have the people that are, I'm guessing from our standpoint, small agency, and then you've got some, big dogs in there as well.
They had about 80 people that didn't respond to this one.
Yeah.
The last one was like 1882, and this is 1804.
Yeah, I don't know that 1882 was the total number, but it was, it's pretty damn close, I think. It's in their data set. So you got a nice mix here. So here's the first question. How would you classify your understanding and adoption of AI today?
So my first question for this would be, what does experimentation mean? Does that mean I'm messing around with it on my own, or I'm messing around with it on the website, customer website, or my website?
I bet the bulk means, some split testing platform.
Mashing buttons.
It's interesting. I didn't take it that way. And there's a slide later on which would lean more towards the, Charles's definition of, hey, we're sort of playing around with it and seeing, what happens. The interesting thing is, like I said, this data, when they started this survey, some of these categories came up before ChatGPT and, all those things hit. So when you were looking at AI implementation, it was a whole different animal than it is, today, where for $20 in a ChatGPT subscription, you're in the game. So, but what struck me about this was 44%. When you look at the curiosity and experimentation, this says this kind of says we're trying it out and see what happens. It's like we're at the very early stage.
What strikes me is this is an Institute of Marketing Artificial Intelligence Institute, and yet most of the people don't mess with AI at all.
Yeah.
That skews a lot of the other answers, I think. If you don't not using it, and yet we're asking you about how you use it. So.
Mhm. Yeah, it's where are you on the adoption? Well, you can sit there, and be a member of the institute because you're interested in this AI thing and seeing what's going on. So you could be at the brand new noob set end of the scale.
Yeah, I just would have expected to see a higher mean.
Yeah, more towards the integration and transformation end of things. Yeah.
See,
I don't
Terry,
know. I think it's a lot of people are just, especially business owners and like Charles, when he was working at his previous position, I bet he didn't have a whole lot of time to go out and find new tools and think of new ways to use new features and all that shit. So they just sit back and join a community and wait for someone else who does have that time to do it. So and pluck those ideas out of there versus,
Mm.
oh, I'm gonna just join this group and I'm not gonna participate in AI because fuck AI. I mean, if you're in the ranking master, or you're an old dude, then yeah, okay, and you don't want to change, that's fine. I can get it. But for the most part, I think there's a big balance. Like, I love AI. I like the things that it can do, but the last thing I'm gonna do is sit behind my computer for 12 fucking hours looking at 80 different tools and wondering, oh, what can I do with this today? And there's other people who want to spend their time doing that, and I'm not that guy.
They have big old YouTube channels.
Exactly. So I'll just watch
so
what they
I
do. Or I listen to Terry. Terry goes, and I mean, he's got the time, so he wants to go out and find all the tools and get on him. And if Terry finds a cool one and he wants to tell people about it, then I'll go check it out. And if it doesn't fit into my SOP, then it goes into the cool guy pile. But I'm not touching it. So.
Yeah.
So Clint is I would say he's partially right in the what's happening out there, at least for larger companies. A lot of people are saying they do SEO, or I'm sorry, AI, but and they have to because somebody at the C-suite level said this is super important. AI is super important. Everyone needs to do something, and so everyone's saying, "Oh yeah, I do AI." But then when you start finding out what exactly do you do, they don't really do anything, or at most you'll have a team make a GPT, and it's usually god awful.
We're using it to write
No
their
one in the
email.
company uses it because it's god awful, but they can check the box, and at their the annual review they can say we did this.
And it is the brand GPT at that. It's
Yes,
it's built with the brand voice. So
that's right.
Story brand 2.0.
all right. This one, was actually a little bit of a surprise to me. 74% saying, that AI is important to the success of marketing over the next 12 months. That's fine.
But 50%, 57% in the last slide didn't know what to do with it or how it could help.
Yeah, but it's important, Ted. That's the thing. That's why we're trying to figure it out. It's because it's important. But, I was struck by the 21% who said somewhat important, and the 3% that said not sure. Those are kind of little lost puppies, and the not important at all. 3% of the people are delusional. So we've got that in this data.
I'm more surprised by the very and critical. I think people are just guessing.
Yeah, I think so.
They are.
Told you, Ted,
listening to their own marketing thing, and I just built the slides with AI, so this makes my slides 10 times better because I did it with AI. And look, my pantyhose with AI. That's where that's, and I bet you there's some cynicism in there, and it's probably healthy cynicism.
There is, but the podcast that they put out this last week had an interesting little segment on it. One of the companies, it's a big company, I don't remember the name of it, but it was publicly traded. November, December, the CEO is like, we're not hiring any people, we're using AI, blah, we're doing all this sort of stuff. And this past week he had to retract it, and they're doing a full hiring because They were using the AI trying to replace people in their customer service roles, and they found that the AI was not producing the quality of outputs that they wanted. So now they're having to put people back into those roles. They didn't lay off people, but they did have a freeze basically, and now they're back to hiring to do that. So there's limitations on this stuff, and that's, again, it's the technology is still early. So this one kind of gets back to what Charles was talking about earlier. This talked about, how's your, when you're transforming your team towards this AI-driven team, where are you in the thing? And they did provide the definitions over here. The understanding, is like we're learning how AI works. Piloting is we're prioritizing and starting to run. I love that. And starting to run stuff. And then scaling is like we're adopting and, increasing the efficiency and performance. But this was only 14%, which means 86% of the people either just learning about it or just getting started.
Yeah, I think the people that are gonna be successful with AI probably have their processes well documented. Because the places where AI can, take a serious part of work off, off your employees' hands and be automated, it's not going to be entire process workflows. It's going to be, step 6 and step 9. And if you can recognize that, then you can find those quick wins where you can have, small scoped projects that actually add value in a meaningful way. For example, if your product team in e-commerce is already filling out the Amazon product feeds, they could do it for all of the SKU IDs and get all of the data into that spreadsheet, but they could leave the product names and the product descriptions blank. And then they could take that feed to AI and say, hey, based on each product's specific details, write a unique product name and a unique product description that, characterizes this product, and do it in an on-brand type of voice. And so, like, that would be amazing. That's a very narrowly focused part of a procedure where AI could do a lot of the hard work.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't document your processes and you're thinking, well, we'll just let AI handle pay-per-click. Well, that's probably not going to end very well. Probably won't work at all right now. So yeah, I think if you want to succeed with AI, you need to have a very uh, close, detailed look at your processes.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing to keep in mind is I was thinking about the all the responses that they got across the questions. If you're doing anything with code or content, you're kind of forced to be on the leading edge, so that's kind of where we are. We play with this stuff, but the vast majority of people out there are barely aware of AI and its capabilities. They've heard of it now, but most people still haven't, played with it. So what are we doing? This gets to where you were, Ted. What are we doing with AI? These are the primary outcomes. I also find from talking to a lot of people, like Terry is a good example of this, who does a lot of things with AI. He's actually implementing some of these things.
I'm nervous that people are trying to get insight from LLMs because they know it's not actually doing an analysis, right? It's
Yeah.
creating an output that looks like an analysis was done.
It's called experimentation, Ted. Go.
Lee, may I rant on that first item there for a few seconds?
Please rant away, sir.
So Oh my God. So reduce time spent on repetitive data-driven tasks. I'm totally there. I want to do this. I agree 100%. So the concept is great. I have been running a test for the past 3 weeks where it required a repetitive data-driven task. And I would do it 3 times a day. It took me 15 minutes with ChatGPT. The problem I found is that ChatGPT is horrible, and so is Gemini, and so is Claude. I've tried the different models, and then the different models within the different ones all return different results. What I found is that I would do the prompt, and then it would give me a result, and then maybe an hour or two later, or the next day, I'd do this exact same prompt. It would give me a different result, and I had to say no, don't do that. And then I found I had to delete my old chats to the point that I had to go in fresh every single time. And then even then, sometimes it would give me a different result. I'm like, why would you do it this way this time and a different way the other time? So just as a warning, like the folks, like, yes, use AI for repetitive tasks. Just be real careful. It hallucinates like crazy. And you have to, you have to have some checks or something in there. It
Charles,
scares
like,
me to think that everybody's just throwing stuff into AI or ChatGPT or whatever, and it just they're going to assume that it's accurate data coming out, and it's not. That's a horrible assumption to make. I saw this years ago when I first started doing training. This is back in the 90s, and folks, when they turned the computer on, they turned their brain off, and I think it's only going to get worse with AI.
I saw a
Rant
guy
over.
do
Sorry.
I saw a guy do a talk on KPIs and other things like that, and making sure you understand, whether your data's accurate and those sort of things. But all that shit just goes out the window. The minute an AI takes a look at the data and gives me an answer, it came from God. There's no reason to review it, is the way people, are treating it. So I'm with you. There's this unwarranted confidence that comes from an AI analysis.
Honey did that test, what was it, like a year ago, maybe on it was checking whether something was
Almost
AI
two
written or
years
not.
ago.
Yeah. And every time she did the check, it came back with a different percentage. And I know for a fact people are running analysis of websites saying this is the sentiment on all of our pages, or this is the brand sentiment or something on all of our pages. And it's like, have you run that more than once? Try running it more than once and see what it comes. It's going to come back different. People don't realize that.
It's because things change, Charles. The world changes and you have to adapt. That's what's going on with the AI. It's adapting real time.
I mean, I think that Charles's point is like the developers, all the other communities, not just SEO, are just realizing that AI is accentuating the amount of people that are lazy and just proving how dumb they are. Sadly, that's just kind of how it is, right? If
Mhm.
you're overly relying on AI, especially a large language model whose name is called generative AI, the fucking name gives it away. It's generating for 100% accuracy of things, then you deserve the outcome that you get from the result.
The sad part though, so Clint, I see this as an opportunity. I see it as like this is great. There's a lot of I'm just gonna just say there's a lot of dumb people doing dumb things with AI, and they think it makes them smart. Two wrongs don't make a right. And as an addition to that, there's a lot of large organizations that are now putting a lot of things on AI they shouldn't be. And the people that are going to pay the price, there's going to be people that are going to pay the price of this, and it's not going to be the people that should be paying the price for it. So I don't think that's right at all. That's wrong. I'm all in on using AI for things. I still use AI, but folks just again they turn their brains off and they think again, like you said, Lee, it's just it's the word of God. With all that said, I still say you can replace a C-suite with AI totally because it's generic. They give generic information. AI gives generic information. It's a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Rant over.
Yeah.
I'm also, just on a personal note, I am glad that Clint agreed to accept the director of empathy position here at SEO Fight Club.
Now, there are some aspects of this list you could legitimately use AI for, like if you were trying to get ad copy that would be suitable for an impulse buyer marketing persona, or if you're looking for a list of reasonable marketing personas for an odd type of product and you wanted it to articulate the difference and buying behaviors between those personas. There are things where you can make money and find opportunities where you might not have otherwise. But like Clint said, if you're expecting it to balance the books, you know, buckle up.
Yeah, it also would depend on which, like, are you using the AI chatbots to try to do that, or do you have custom AI built? Are you using IBM Watson, where those guys have specialized in using AI to do that stuff?
Yeah.
The amount of money you're going to pay for both of those is going to be significant too, right? So you're going to spend a whole lot of money if you're using a chatbot to do it, because you're going to have to fight yourself in IRS hell, or you're going to pay IBM Watson to get it right, and they're going to cost a lot to use.
I would say just test whatever you want to do. Like if you want to use it, if you want to use AI to balance your books, I'm not saying don't try it, but check it, and then have a check process in place to be like, okay, maybe I don't need this bookkeeper, but I do need an auditor, and I need an auditor that's going to spend a quarter of the time every week or every month or whatever checking what the AI did. And as long as there's a process, I'm all for AI. It's again, it's not the be all and end all. It's not the start, middle, and end. It's just part of the process.
Or in that same scenario,
Yeah.
the AI could be doing the bookkeeping, but your bookkeeper is there every day, keeping an eye on it, making sure it's right, and making him or herself more efficient versus handing it all off. AI is doing my bookkeeping now. The tail to the
I
no.
use AI to check so to your analogy, like use it, you could use, like, let's say I do my own bookkeeping. I could have AI check my books and maybe it'll catch something that I never would have caught. I have AI check all my code and be like, is this right? And it always finds something. And sometimes it'll come back and say, oh, it's great, but maybe you should add this, or maybe you should. It's like, okay, it's again, to your point, Clint, it's a way to enhance my knowledge, leverage my knowledge, not replace me or replace, Ted, or try to replace Lee or something. It's enhancement. Make yourself better, smarter, faster.
Exactly.
Yeah, they forgot the winning answer on that last slide, which is maximize daytime hours for browsing TikTok, which
Yeah.
is probably what most people are using it for. Do my homework, do my work.
I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie, I have it making prompts or something, and then I'll go watch Facebook while it's working. Yep.
exactly. So here's an interesting one. What platforms are you using? Now, this was the average for the whole thing, but when you were going up in the revenue scale, ChatGPT use came down and Copilot went up. So, this is one where the average doesn't tell the story. It's, the smaller enterprises, smaller companies use, ChatGPT, Claude, those kind of things. And, as it goes up to the bigger enterprises, they're using Copilot largely.
So there's a post that I covered this week. It's from Sam Altman. He talked about actually what the difference in competition that they see it as at OpenAI. So they have the chatbots where you have ChatGPT versus Gemini versus Anthropic versus DeepSeek, right? Those chatbot systems, that's one set of competition they worry about. And then AI search, Copilot's integration with Bing, Gemini's integration with AI overviews. And they see those as two different marketing segments or competitive marketing segments that they're trying to approach. And I think that having that perspective, this kind of seems it's a little weird. Like for productivity, OpenAI hands down is kicking everyone's ass, but their UI is probably, I would say, it's more entertaining. I find myself in there more. It's easier to turn it on. I can save stuff, etc. versus a Claude where half the time I got to go back and spend 30 minutes trying to sign into the stupid thing and just not wanting to deal with it, right? So, and then Copilot is so embedded now into, as long as you're signed into your Microsoft accounts, you can use it in Edge, Outlook, Excel, Word. So it makes sense that they would be probably up there in a second, especially for the enterprise space, because those folks are mainly using the um, Microsoft or Microsoft Teams or what is that, Office 365 accounts too. So,
Yeah, we don't need the extra OpenAI expense. Just use what we're already paying for.
yep.
So
And
now,
then the Google for Workspace, I think that's a little misleading because they just turn that shit on for everybody. And then, oh, you're all using it. I mean, you can barely touch it, but you're all using it.
hey, it's the match somebody's metric, somebody's KPI right there is, employee usage rate. And so, you got to do that. It's like, IT can make itself appear more valuable by forcing everybody to change their password. And so everybody's interacting with our system. So, what do you believe the net effect will be over the next 3 years? This is interesting. This number, 53%, that's the highest it's been. They've been doing the survey. I think this was the third or fourth year that they did the full survey, and it keeps going up, but it was a nice jump from last year to this year. So people think that more jobs are going to be eliminated by AI than will be, created by AI.
It kind of neglects all of the content writing jobs that have already been eliminated.
Well,
All the logo making jobs that have already been eliminated. So just the next 3 years, but not the past two.
I think
well,
it eliminates low level job descriptions and it's kind of, if you want to progress in your career, you should always be increasing your knowledge base and finding ways to make yourself better, right? So if you're a graphic designer who specializes in logos for branding and you get replaced by AI, were you really a good graphic designer in the first place? Because I've seen the crap that even the best AI models are giving and they're not very good. So it's, I think there's some balance. Will it eliminate jobs? Yes, like Ted alluded to, the writers, like I writer be gone, thank God. But there's still going to be a need to have someone who can articulate with words and write properly and just use AI to make his that progress so much better. So where it took you a week to write a great article, now it takes you a day to write a great article.
Yeah, I think the people who are going to excel over the next 3 years are probably the people that are good at documenting processes, good at writing specifications, because turns out writing specifications, it maps almost 1-to-1 with prompt writing. Um, and so people that had those roles were largely like the technical program managers and things like that. They're probably going to be empowered the most because they won't need the team of writers to do everything. They'll be able to get that work done just with the specification, and their knowledge of the process is going to be invaluable for knowing which parts can be automated, which parts bring the best value. Um,
So there's
so
an interesting thing with that though, Ted. One of the things that they found is that the way that people are doing it is they're keeping their systems, their prompts, and everything else to themselves because when the company downsizes, I want my job. I got to beat out Ted and Clint and Charles and Terry. So I'm not sharing my prompts and my processes that I've documented. I'm just trying to
yeah,
get more work done per person than they do. So when the
that
budget
just
cuts happen,
that just means that the team license and the enterprise license have a corporate owned history.
So
Um,
I have a cynical take on this. I'm feeling very cynical today. My cynical take is the reason why people think jobs are going to get created, because a lot of folks, we've heard a lot about quiet quitting. I wonder how many folks basically have AI doing their job for them. That kind of says how little they do in their job, but they have AI doing their job for them. They know they're not doing anything. They know AIs, and they're two
well, they
things. Number
just
one, they're afraid it's going to get found out about eventually, and it's like when it gets found out, my job's on the hook, or my job's going. Or to Lee's point, they're keeping it real quiet because they don't want everyone to know that they're
they're
using AI to do their darn job.
they're on the entry level management track. They went from being the I'm the guy that's, writing the descriptions to now I'm the project manager who is managing AI to write the descriptions. And it, it's kind of a redefining of their role and probably without corporate's input on that.
Well, exactly. That's what's happening, but I don't think everyone realizes how much. See, that's my feeling is like again, whether it's writers or whether, let's say, the analytics team, there's 10 people on the analytics team right now. I think in the future, there's going to be two or three, and they're using AI and tools to do all the analysis.
Yeah.
I think right now there's 10 people on the team, and most of them are using AI to do all their work for them. And they've just quietly, you know, they know AI is doing their work, and they just know eventually the other shoe's going to fall. People are going to realize we don't need you, or we can.
And those ones in that group of 10, they get fired are the ones that get lazy and just kind of let AI go and run amok. And those are the ones that, honestly, they're the ones that deserve to get replaced.
I
There should be
agree.
more jobs will be eliminated by AI because we're lazy asses. That's what it should, that's what that line should read.
But because I'm cynical, Charles, today,
Yeah.
the right people aren't going to get laid off.
Right. People are not going to
The wrong people are going to get laid off, I suggest. I say.
So
Which
you're
is
saying
probably
C-suite
true because
survives.
in a corporate environment, yes, that is 100% true.
Now, as a cynical data guy, thing that I found interesting is 53% feel that jobs are going to be eliminated by AI, but not my job. Most feel like it's somebody else's job. So, you've got 46% are not very concerned or not concerned at all, about that. I found that we are wonderfully delusional.
Yeah,
And
26% need to find the local unemployment office, be my guess.
Some percentage of them are no, they're not in their job's not in danger because they're having AI do it. So there's still a job there. It's just being done by AI. There's still a need for content creation. It's just Bob and Sue aren't doing shit anymore. They're letting ChatGPT do it all. So the jobs are still there. They're just being done by AI.
Charles has
they're not.
infected Terry.
Those 33% in the neutral column, those are my people. There's risk, there's opportunities, and there's detractions from every new technology. And it's up to the smart people will figure out the opportunities and learn how to mitigate the risks.
Yeah, I think as jobs are lost to AI, casino revenues are going to skyrocket. I think desperation will hit in industries like that, will be the thing until government figures out how to stem the loss of careers. And I'm not saying that's all happening this year, but, it's a path.
It is.
Lee, I would say, if you don't mind going back for a second, you're looking at 91% of the people are not very concerned. Like that's how kind of I looked at it when I like.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that aren't like. I think more people should be concerned that like, and even if you take the bottom two, you're still saying only 80%. 80% of the people aren't concerned. Everybody else is like neutral or not concerned, and
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of very confident people out there. Having worked in corporate environments, 80% of the people should not be confident.
It goes back to, 80% of the people out there think they're an above average driver, which, statistically you can't have. So again, we're wonderfully delusional about this stuff. So You guys can find the full paper here. Marketing AI Institute is pretty cool. They have a great little podcast for, if you guys would like to keep up on a lot of the things that go on in AI. They have a very nice, intelligent discussion of most of those things in a different perspective. Um, in this particular case, if you go to their website, they also have a webinar where they discussed for an hour or so. They discussed the results here in much more detail than what we did here. I just picked out a few things for this. And one other little thing, I decided to do something fun, which is I'm going to have a lunch not every week, but most weeks, virtual lunch with 7 SEOs. So it's going to be virtual. We're going to limit because you have small group conversation and stuff like that. If people are interested in having lunch with me, you can scan the QR code or go to Tested SEO Training /lunch with Lee and sign up. We're just going to try to have a different group each week. So it's not like you're signing up for a long-term commitment. We're going to rotate it through. So it's just like having a virtual lunch with strangers who are in
Is
your
it is it pitch or is it just general chit chat and Q&A?
It's general chit chat. Who knows where it can go depending, when you get 7 SEOs together at a dinner table, God knows where the conversation goes. So, it's just a chance to meet some other folks in the industry and have some SEO conversation. So
Is it going to be Lee and 7 business coaches?
No, it's going to be just SEOs because they're the only ones that are watching this particular show. So
True.
And because it's on Zoom, I have the ability to boot somebody if they start doing the, hey, you know what you need, So
Well,
that was it.
that's awesome. Cool opportunity. All right, let's do a few questions here. And then I'll be late to a support meeting. Hopefully they're watching the show. Notice that Google started monetizing AI overviews. There's already ad placements there. An article on SEO Roundtable. Yeah, been expecting something like pay per prompt to come up or, some keyword trigger and a prompt response to cue an ad. So yeah, it's coming.
It's e-commerce.
Is it good to have 2 pages, plumber, Seattle, Seattle, plumber? I have this, and the town service page is ranking 6, while the service town is ranking 16th. I don't think you need to have both. I think you just need to have one. Um, you can actually tune a page for both. The thing you need to recognize is that they're different searches. And so the way you would tune one page for both is you would have both exact matches tuned on the same page. They're going to overlap on the LSI and the entities and the variations, but where they don't overlap is on the exact match usage requirements. So if you're using a tool like Cora, I would run the report for both, and I would pick whichever one had the higher tuning standards in general, but then I would take the exact match requirements from the other one and add it to the one. And that's how I would make one page that's targeting both Plumber Seattle and Seattle Plumber. The problem with the 2-page method is that it can become cannibalization. So it sounds like you're in the happy outcome where you have one ranking best and the other one ranking down, so the 2 listings. But if things get heated for, competition, you might find that it'll flip-flop between the 2, and then you're in a cannibalization scenario. What do you think, Clint?
For one client, we run into that. He in his question, he iterated that the client doesn't want to delete pages or combine them, and my client didn't either. So we just use exact matches and made sure that sale was predominant on one versus renting was predominant on the other. So you kind of you overachieve in those for sale and for rent keyword spaces, and then link to each other with exact match anchors to differentiate, and that kind of helps get rid of that. And then the rest of it is your anchor text in the background. So don't send for sale anchor text to your rent page, and likewise don't send renting anchors to your for sale pages, which happens more often than not.
Yeah, and I think, an easy way of looking at this is if you look at the those two searches, the overlap in the URLs is probably going to be 90%, which, says that they're basically the same term in Google's eyes. The shifting around of the rankings a little bit can be due to, whether you have the one version on the page, versus the other one.
I would say that would be more true like Phoenix SEO Phoenix than shipping containers for sale versus shipping containers for rent. They're
No, but his was Seattle Plumber and Plumber Seattle.
yeah,
So
yeah, like in that example, it would be
yeah. But in yours, yeah, there's going to be some more differences because some people will specialize in both and some will specialize in one or the other.
yeah.
I hope people realize that Clint just dropped a nugget on how to help eliminate cannibalization on your
You're
site.
not supposed to point out the nuggets, Charles. They gotta find them on their own.
We don't. I don't have Dre's soundboard where I'm gonna put the explosion. So let's go boom.
Let's see. I'm
Charles is
planning.
like, pick that shit up, boys and girls. Pick that shit.
I'm planning to work on a supplements e-commerce store. Right now, I'm considering creating many product categories, which probably means you're planning on sourcing many products to go in each of those categories, based on niche keywords. Keywords like supplement for vegan, supplement for keto, and other subgroups like over 30, over 50, etc. If it's an affiliate thing, that plan makes a lot of sense. But if you're actually going to source the goods, I think that plan is too risky. If you're planning to source the goods where you get your best margins, I think you should buy 10 units of one you think is the easiest for you to sell. And then you should figure out through a campaign of some sort, whether it's TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or whatever, how to sell 10 units and see how much time it takes to turn those 10 units, how much time it takes to get them in when you reorder, what your landed cost is. Do you have bads? I think you should do a small scale experiment. And then once you figure out how to sell 10 units, then you can say, let's buy 100 units. But you should definitely do that before you buy, uh, 100 different SKUs. Any thoughts on e-com?
Nope. I mean, to go any further would have to highlight, you have to get an answer in regards to what you said. Are they just being an affiliate and selling supplements, or are they actually being a supplements provider? Yeah, that would definitely drive that answer.
All right. Let me send a quick note. Sorry, I'm late for a meeting, and there he is. Let me just say I need 15.
He's watching the show. No, you're lying.
Yeah.
He's not watching the show.
He's not watching the show.
Call.
That's
Cancel
the problem.
Call.
You don't value me.
You need a support meeting if you watch the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
25 for
where's
court, Ted. You owe me your life. Spend Zoom time 24 hours a day. Be there for me. Make a call.
All right, now I need to figure out where I put my there it is, the question list. Okay. Let's see. He's worried about cluttering with categories. Don't, if it helps customers find what they need. I'd rather have verbose, exact match categories rather than conjoin things. If your navigation is awful to use, you will see it in site search. When you make a socks and shoes category because you only had 2 pairs of socks and 500 pairs of shoes, anybody looking for socks will be frustrated by that. So they'll go to the socks and shoes category, can't find the socks they're after. They go to site search, search for socks. That's your pain in the ass indicator that you fucked up the navigation. So don't worry about small categories. People panic. Oh no, I have a socks category with 2 products. So what? Help people find them efficiently. Um, all right. Let's see. I personally like the categories method. Oh, still same thing. All right. Done a lot of those. Let's see. I'm looking at shifting my SEO services away from blogging and towards CRO instead, mostly due to AIOs, LLMs, etc. As a small business solo consultant for a specific niche, do you think that's a wise move? Well, CRO should have always been part of your SEO mindset, even if you don't specifically do a lot of CRO type services. You still should have had an eye out for it, saying, hey, this part right here could benefit from CRO and would be important to your business. So I think adding CRO in general is a wise move. I don't think you need to necessarily, shut one thing down right now. I mean, you can if you want to, but I mean, there's still a good market for SEO right now. So why not just do both and see where things go in the long run? Thoughts on that?
Well, this one will set me off on a little mini rant. The thing is, every business owner that hires you to do SEO, CRO, AIO, or BSEO, thanks, Simon, for that one, is hiring you to put money in their pocket. I'm going to pay you X dollars a month. You're going to generate Y dollars a month in income from me over some period of time, and Y needs to be greater than X. So if you're offering blogging, I'm going to ask you, does your blogging service put money in my pocket? Can you show that with the businesses you work with, they paid you X dollars for blogging and made more money than what they've paid you? Preferably a substantial multiple. CRO, do you know enough about CRO to offer that as a service and put more money in my pocket? And then, when you're tying it to AIO, do you know that your blogging does or doesn't have an impact on the AIO, or CRO does or doesn't have an impact on AIO? So there's holes there. So given that, I would look at it and say, as long as you're making money for the client, do it. And I would go back to Ted's thing and I would say, why can't you do both? Or why close one door if you can offer, multiple services to them? So, if they want one but not the other, or possibly both, you can, increase your revenue that way.
Yep. It's all about what you're selling. If you're an SEO, technically all you're really selling is rankings, right? But you can upsell and offer CRO. What does CRO create? The opportunity for more leads. So you're using SEO to increase rankings, to increase visibility, to increase traffic, which could potentially increase to conversions into leads. Oh, but you're not handling that. Well, I can do that for you also, and that's an upsell. So, I don't, I it really depends on what you want to be your primary offer. Like most SEOs, in my opinion, are selling leads and sales when they don't control either one of those things. And it makes it, and then they're all complaining about why their churn's so high versus I sell rankings and then the subsequent traffic that comes with it. And then I'll help you with CRO stuff. If I see glaring things that are wrong and that are jacked up, hey, this might do better. And if I, have to spend my time more doing that than I am doing the SEO part, then I'll upsell you on the CRO thing. So it's, again, it's how and what you're selling. So I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to actually transitioning to just selling CRO off of the beginning. It's kind of like selling web design off the beginning. We're doing web design and then we lead into SEO upsells. You can certainly do CRO that leads into other upsells later down the road. So it's, what's more fun for you at that point. There's definitely a need for CROs just as much as there is for SEOs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, about SEO for B2B. What data is essential to show in the reporting? Well, most people are showing rankings and traffic. I'd say the more enterprise engagements will show conversions and organic revenue. Um, that those are usually the things you'd want to try to do. You'd want to try to get some traditional marketing practices into the SEO channel where there often aren't. So getting some sort of attribution to the monthly gross revenue reporting in some way uh, would be key to being able to allow businesses to know that the channel is valuable and it's working and it has improved over time. Um, so those would be the things to keep in mind. The fact that the product, it has very low search volume, tells me that there's an education problem. And you probably need to look to multi-channel marketing if SEO doesn't have the volume you require because people don't know how to search for your solution. They either don't know about a problem they have, or they don't know that a problem they have has a solution, or they just simply don't know how to search for it. And so in those cases, you have to get clever with multi-channel marketing to get in front of people who would have that problem, usually by job title or salary or location or education, those types of dimensions. And those would allow you to get in front of that audience where search might not be the best marketing channel. And yeah, SEO is not the best answer to all marketing problems. Sometimes Facebook is better. Um, it happens. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's true. And if you're ethical enough to say that to people, they actually appreciate it a lot more too, right? So
Let's see. How can I affect my ranking using Google Ads? Well, you can find out for $50, you can find out what keywords not only get search impressions, but also get clicks. You can find out what text is good at winning the clicks. When you SEO your pages, you improve your quality score typically, so you can actually win those clicks at a lower CPC, and that saves ad spend that could then be used on SEO. You could, uh, well, SEO lifts all boats, but I'd say that the data, the analytics from the ad campaigns probably stands the best opportunity to tell you where SEO would be most beneficial. So that's how I'd use it. Any other thoughts on that?
I've seen mixed data on this. Some people sit there and say, hey, running Google ads, tends to increase their rankings. Some people will sit there and say it's because you're spending money with Google. Some people will say it's because of the clicks that you're getting and, these sort of things. And then other people have found no difference. So I would just, spend the $50 and see what happens.
All right. My client has a page for rent power tool, but he also has a page for buy power tool. They often compete, and he says he does not want to remove any of the pages. Well, if they're cannibalizing, the question would be, does one rank noticeably better than the other? Because you don't want them to cannibalize where it switches from, spot 4 to spot 22. But if they're cannibalizing from spot 4 to spot 6, might not matter all that much. And if you're getting both and they just rank differently, then it might not matter all that much. So every situation is unique, so it's hard to give general advice on those.
But Clint did drop some, because he was looking at this one earlier when we were looking at the plumber Seattle plumber, which is a similar type of question. That's the one he dropped the nuggets.
But just rewind the video.
And there it is.
Yeah, let's see. Do breadcrumbs give the same boost in rankings as links in the content body? I don't know. There have been multiple statements coming out of Google about how they handle multiple links on the same page to a different page. And so Google says they use the first one, but there's context differences potentially in the anchor text. So it's hard to say how they pick, or do they glom them all together in those cases for that contextual component. I would say it doesn't harm your chances to have multiple links to the same page, but probably multiple exact links with the exact same anchor text probably isn't going to give much benefit, if any at all. So at least make the anchor text an opportunity to pick up a different form of the keyword. What do you think, Clint? You do a lot of this.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
I know what I'm talking about.
So this probably came up because I don't know. I think he watches my show, but we talked about breadcrumb schema, and then I did a blog post about breadcrumb schema and offered some templates for it. So there is some questions on Reddit too, and there's this dude. He sells links. So his idea is, if you put breadcrumb schema on there, then the authority of your page describing the link power is going to pass through and it'll boost the whole string of URLs, which is completely balderdash. So sidebar links, footer links, navigation links have less effect in testing than in content links. And it's the context, because your sidebar, naver, footer, and your breadcrumbs are generally going to be essentially broad terms, right? They're not necessarily going to be on point with your topic. And so you will get less value out of those than you will for using on point, exact match, partial match entities as your anchors. And that's been proven in testing. But get away from the idea of that the same boost. Will you get the same ranking result? No, you will not. Versus the same boost or the same amount of juice, or get out of that trap.
And keep in mind that the research Clint is talking about is one link versus one link. Just know that when you add a link into a site-wide footer, a site-wide navigation, that's always going to be more powerful than just one context link, because it's obviously site-wide links to a page versus one content link to a page.
And you can use exact match in the site-wide positions. The test that Ted and I did was on-page SEO, 15,000 links to one page, and we got it up to the middle of page 2 with just footer links. So you can do it, but in regards to breadcrumbs, those change across the site, across categories, however you have your breadcrumbs set up. So you're not going to get as much ranking increase as if you just did it in your in content.
Yeah, and that example, I rarely bring it up, but it's the counterpoint to 0 plus 0 is 0, because 15,000 zeros added up to 1. But it's close to 0, though. Very, very close to 0. It takes 15,000 of them.
This is why
All
spam
right.
works.
Yep. Let's see. Regarding B2B websites, what are the most common mistakes they do when it comes to SEO? Well, I think the most common mistakes in SEO are, it doesn't matter that it's B2B, misusing the canonical, forgetting about your meta robots, uh, blocking things you shouldn't block, and robots.txt, infinite crawls with Googlebot, not knowing what they are or what to do about them. The common mistakes in SEO are common for every industry, not just B2B.
Improper targeting, I think, would be the best.
Oh, yeah. If the targeting is wrong, the SEO is wrong by extension. Absolutely. Let's see. And that looks like it. So we got through the list. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.